In the fall of 2014, leading up to kind of the legislative session that was going to be starting in January, my job was to kind of bring together a lot of our brewery owners. I reached out to a lot of the distributors, reached out to tons of retailers, and kind of tried to say, all right, what can we do that would be, would be a win for everybody. It would help the breweries. It would help give clarity to their business models. It would help drive a little bit of profit, especially in those early stages as a small brewery.
So the original SB 63 asked that a consumer be able to have up to 72 ounces per person per day for on-site consumption, that's pints, and then allow a consumer to take up to 144 ounces to go, which would be a 12-pack of beer.
That is actually very, very minuscule compared to a lot of other states. Some states are wide open. You can go in, you can buy a keg, you can buy a case, you can buy 2 cases, get whatever you want. We were just trying to get to a point where we could market our beer to the public.
We introduced the bill as Senate Bill 63. Our sponsor was a Senator Hunter Hill, and he kind of heard the case, and it's not like he's doing it just for craft beer, but just because common sense. He said, this is really reasonable. This is good for small business. This is kind of good for our philosophy of what government should be doing, which is kind of getting out of the way to some extent and letting companies and businesses go and thrive and do what they do best.
Direct retail sales is something that's really simple and straightforward. It's been legal in almost all the states in the United States for quite some time. It's something that is legal in Florida, became legal in Florida in the 1960s that a brewery could do direct retail sales to the public. In North Carolina, it became legal in the 1980s, in Tennessee in the 1990s. And we really just wanted to get Georgia up to par with these other states that are around us and provide our brewers with the ability to make a little extra money, market their beers the way that they want to market their beers, and then be competitive from a financial standpoint with the breweries in the states that surround us.
The amount of widespread support we had behind this was unbelievable. I mean, we had mayors, city councils, communities all across the state writing into their representatives saying, we support the Beer Jobs Bill, we support the Beer Jobs Bill. We had people signing the petition online. We had the press coming out overwhelmingly saying this is common sense reform, this is simple, this is straightforward, this is good for everybody, this is not going to hurt anybody.
The law, SB 63, was a real hope for the breweries in the state, that finally Georgia was going to make some modifications that had been proven to work and have been proven to be a win for everybody in other states. Unfortunately, by the time the law made it fully through the legislature to be voted on, it had been watered down and really only gave us the opportunity to charge variable prices of tours.
During that process with the committee and everything's behind closed doors and that and the other, they removed, at kind of the last second, they removed the ability for brew pubs to be able to sell beer direct. So the bill simply became packaging breweries being able to sell beer direct. And then that got further watered down in some type of bargain to where they can't actually sell it. They can give it away, but they could charge more for it as long as they charge the sales tax, but it's not a sale. And so it became just this ridiculous bill.
It's a substitute bill for a reason. It literally substituted everything we were sort of going for and came up with something that I don't think anyone on our side would have suggested as a final result, which was that essentially we were allowed to now charge people for tours, which was new, and that was definitely an increased benefit from where we were. In the past we had to charge for glassware. Now we were able to technically charge for the tour, so we were able to at least generate revenue in theory out of every customer that was walking through the door, and that was a pretty good step in the right direction for us. With that, the way the bill and the regulations were initially written, and what we believe to be the intent of that bill, was that if people came in, we could now vary our pricing for the tours based on anything we wanted, and that included the amount of alcohol or the style, or a style of alcohol.
Our brewery spent $18,000 based on this new plan to improve our tasting room experience, add new equipment. I got approval from the Department of Revenue in writing that our exact new tour plan with variable tour pricing was perfectly fine. Those are the exact 2 words that were used, perfectly fine.
it was like a sock in the gut. It really was. We invested almost $10,000 in a new growler system, shelving for display. We staffed up our tasting room. We changed our hours. We expanded our hours, and we changed our format in the tasting room to make it more as close as we could to just an experience of coming, sitting, communing with friends.
Less than 3 months into the new system, the Department of Revenue issued a bulletin that pretty much undid all of those new rules and made it really difficult for breweries to offer variable tour options and beer souvenirs to go. And as a result, we've had to basically unwind our new system and go back to the old system. This type of uncertainty is really bad for business.
Georgia has allowed our state to become a poster child for overtaxation and overregulation. Georgia should be creating policies that promote small business development. Instead, the current system creates confusion, it retards economic development, all to the detriment of our communities, our small businesses, and our consumer.
We consider ourselves #1 for business, but we're also in the bottom 5 when it comes to unemployment. And so we here had this great opportunity to support small business, create jobs. It seems like a no-brainer, and yet for some reason, some people didn't see it that way or didn't want it to happen.
Breweries open an average of 1 every 16 hours in the United States, but in Georgia we're opening them at about 1 every 3 months. So what we'd like to do is get some of that growth in this industry happening here in the state of Georgia, and we've got to get our laws more competitive on a lot of levels in order to be able to do that.
The average brewery in America makes 2.5 times more profit per barrel than a brewery in Georgia. And if as a Georgia brewery, you make way less profit than the national average for craft breweries, all that means is that you're gonna grow slower. You're gonna have a harder time expanding out of state. You're gonna have a harder time hiring new people, investing in better equipment, and quite frankly, you're at a disadvantage.
Coming back for 2016, we're looking at direct retail sales again. We're looking at a brewery being able to do unlimited on-site consumption and unlimited off-site consumption. We're looking at some self-distribution, which would alleviate some pressure on both distributors and brewers to get beer out to the public and out to the retailers it needs to go to. We're looking at some changes to the brewer and wholesaler relationship to ensure that the relationship's equitable and that it benefits the consumer ultimately.
I know in other states, breweries our size still make 80% of their profit through the sales in their tasting room. It helps them grow, it helps their brand grow, it helps the demand for their brand grow in the marketplace because more people come to the brewery, they taste the beer here, then they go home, they buy it in their local Kroger, their local beer store, they become a fan of the brewery. So it actually increases the sales at retail as well, which increases the sales at wholesale level from the distributor to the retailer. So it's a win for everybody.
One thing that strikes me about craft breweries is first that they're fantastic corporate citizens. They invest millions of dollars in their community. They hire people from their local towns, their municipalities. They interact with charities, they raise money, they're a place for people to come together and meet. A brewery has the ability to bring people together in a community and provide fantastic jobs while doing it.
And we should have these breweries in little communities across the state, acting as a little hub for that community, acting as a place where nonprofits can come in and have events, acting as a place where community meetings can take place.
Not only that, but once we start being these artisans and craftsmen, start paying attention to what's going on in our infrastructure and the people around us, then it starts realizing like we can be a very valuable asset to this community, and it'd be shame on us to not do that.
The other thing that craft breweries can bring to a community is straight up tourism and jobs. You know, North Carolina has over 100 breweries, Florida has over 100 breweries, but when you look at a state like North Carolina, with over 100 breweries, they have slightly less population than we have, and we only have 40. See, the city of Chicago has more breweries than the entire state of Georgia. The city of San Diego has more breweries than the entire state of Georgia. And those cities and the state of North Carolina are making a tremendous amount of money by creating beer tourism, by encouraging people to go and visit breweries, to go try a bunch of different things. It's not unlike, traveling to any culinary town or going out to wine country. People really do travel and do beer tourism, and it can be a tremendous boon for a small town.
For example, if you start looking at developed markets, Vermont is constantly in that hub of number 1, number 2 for breweries per capita. And what's going on up there is when you go visit, it's not that you're just going to be sitting at breweries all day. I recently took a trip up there. We're checking into a bed and breakfast, and she's telling us about the beer that she has in her bar inside of her bed and breakfast. You press her a little bit further, and you come to find out that they've started to realize for them, beer is a top economic driver to what's going on in their economy because of tourism and people coming in there. I mean, they're not a big manufacturing place. They don't have a lot of other businesses going on as far as very large industries. They're starting to realize that beer is their large industry.
Brewery is a malt beverage manufacturing facility, and they need forklift drivers and packagers and all sorts of different types of jobs that can be good, high quality, 40-hour-a-week jobs. And there's also some service industry jobs that breweries can provide. But those jobs also beget other jobs. There are distributors, and then there are retailers, there are restaurants, there are festival owners, and all of these kind of tertiary businesses that are also affected when a brewery grows.
So the state of Colorado and the state of Oregon combined have a similar drinking age population than the state of Georgia. Those two states combined have 14,000 brewery jobs. Georgia has 1,300. If Georgia had 14,000 brewery jobs, if we had that similar climate to have all these craft breweries and these craft brewery jobs, it would drop our unemployment rate in the state from 5.9% down to 5.6%. 0.3% of a state unemployment rate, that's phenomenal. And that would do big things for our state. And the greatest thing about those jobs is that they'd be small community jobs all across our state.
No one anticipated this growth. No one anticipated that there'd be twice as many craft breweries in 2015 as there were in 2011. No one ever imagined that we would be hitting the numbers of breweries in the United States that we had right before Prohibition. No one imagined that this would come back the way that it has. But now that it has, it's important for us to look at the systems that we put in place before this industry started and actually come up with smart ways to protect the public, to continue regulation, to make sure that all the taxes are paid and that everyone is safe, but also to encourage the small businesses that want to invest in our communities.